There we go. Welcome. Namaste, beautiful souls. Today, welcome back to Top Tarot Trumps, and I'm going to share with you some reflections on the Tower card. And this is an archetype I really do enjoy reflecting upon. I think it's very powerful and one that is definitely worthy of a bit of a deeper discussion. And I want to thank Masha for her journey through the historical trump cards. And I think it's really interesting and important to know what each of these archetypes is built on, and how it's so interesting how it has evolved to be used in contemporary tarot. And all of the cards I'm sharing with you today are from contemporary decks. And I thought I would start with this image from James Eads' Prisma Visions. Really beautiful old Victorian home on a cliff. And if you have a home like this, wow, the cost of keeping up an old property, a heritage property, I cannot imagine. I know in some cities where there are heritage properties that there is funding from the city and different investments, but this particular situation, this heritage property, is on on a cliff that has been eroding away for years and years. However, I want to get back to the money that we put into a home to renovate, repair, maintain, just in maintenance. It is an exorbitant amount of money, whether it is a heritage home or not, to keep our history alive. Maybe if it is an older home, there is a sense of wanting to preserve and maintain a connection with our ancestors. And I feel like sometimes, hello Amelia, there's an attachment to all of this. And we may not see the big picture. When I think about this picture, I think about one of the beaches that I walk frequently near here, and I've stopped many times and talked to locals who have been there since they were children in the 60s, and the erosion of the beach and the changing nature of the land is very real, and people's properties they've lost property because over time of the erosion of the beaches. And so do we continue to invest money into something that will be lost? And it's actually calculable, how in how many years those front yards will be gone, and then the homes. So this really feels very practical in some ways, and I appreciate this image. I'm also really intrigued with the beauty of the sunset that is in the distance here. It looks like a gorgeous sunset to me, and no wonder these people would want to stay as long as possible. And in a way, I don't feel like this card makes me feel very reminiscent, and we're maybe going to hire some geo engineers and figure out how long we can stay, because there's just something here. So I know I'm going in a completely different direction, and I wonder why we hold on as long as we do. there is always fear of change. But one thing I've said with the Tower card over and over is that we know it's coming. I know some tarologists argue that it is sudden, it's unexpected, but I disagree. I think, like this picture here, we have seen or felt the shift of the energy, and it is of no surprise. Some of these decks I chose for their artwork. Others I chose for the lesson that is shared. And the Llewellyn Tarot, which is in the center of the table right now, I love the major arcana in this deck. The art is so beautiful. And this tower here still stands. The sea has washed up and is taking away the lower portions of the town that once was, and a civilization is lost. And think about all of the civilizations that have been lost to the tower, either by a volcano or fire, and so I think we have historical references we can look to, perhaps in times of our own internal or external tower experiences, to reflect and journal and pray and be with. And there's, I don't know, there's a beauty in a strength here as well too. I understand and I feel the whether we're looking at this heritage home or this powerful tower, and I'll call it a civilization that once was. I get it. But the truth is that things change and the structure of society and the world changes. So how do we bring that into the personal? Because the personal sometimes is really, really hard to look at. And so when I'm counseling, advising clients, I like to have a wide, I know my library of tarot very well, and I think one of the greatest things I can do is go, I know the perfect card to explain what's going on here or to help you see what's going on. And doing an exercise like Top Tarot Trumps and Top Tarot Minors is a wonderful way to get really familiar with your cards, especially if you're reading for other people, because sometimes we need to show an example of what we're talking about in the card. And it might be something very practical or something quite esoteric. This card is from the Primordial Tarot. And man stands upon this monolith, and this is a card of perspective. That once we build this great tower and we look out all around us, we realize how big the world is, how much more there is to know and to learn, and there is no top, there is no tallest. And so now, how are we going to get down from here? How are we going to get down? And I think that's why, one of the reasons why the tower needs to break, so we can get down, so we can be humbled and carry on the journey. And maybe the tower, part of the issue with the tower is that we don't know how to begin. And so something needs to happen in order to push us forward. And I think that's where the surprise might be, is that we don't know what is around the corner that's going to make this change. But we have known for some time that the change is absolutely necessary. And that could come in the form of a car accident. It could come through, I don't know, a loss of some sort, come through divorce, any number of things. These archetypes have layers, right, to be unpeeled. And when we look at them through only one illustration or one point of view, I think we miss so much. And so I can't say enough about doing this kind of an exercise. It's not just about picking 5 cards that I, like the best. It's a wonderful exercise in reflecting on this energy. The energy of Kali is a primary energy in the province of West Bengal in India. And there are Kali temples everywhere. And this is a energy that is actually palpable because it is everywhere. And it can be quite disturbing in that you feel it shaking up things within you. And there are external experiences like crowds at temples or heat or particular, maybe there's some chanting or there's something that feels threatening in some way. But this energy of Kali is meant to quite literally break you open so that the next layer is available to explore life. Because if we don't let that external layer break down, we become calcified and stuck. And Kali, in a simple way, is like what do people say? It's the energy of breaking down the ego, but it's so much more than that. It could be simply taking off a chip off a shoulder, but there's a vulnerability that becomes exposed when we allow that outer layer to peel away. Amelia, I researched and excavated a Bronze Age city in Israel that was destroyed by an earthquake. Oh my goodness. For me, that was a very fundamental lesson about the power of nature. The Tower card always reminds me of that. Yeah, I think this is a... So if I use, an archaeological example of a civilization lost long ago, well, I mean, I've said it already, but there is something released, something to be learned. And it is never easy. It's never easy, I'll give you that. Kali is the great excavator. Earthquake is a blessing for archaeologists because it preserves everything for next generations to study, to learn, to advance. Yeah. All right, let's go to the Lily White Tarot. This one just really gets me. So there is an elk here. So I'm going to describe it as I see it. There's an elk, and the elk has shed their rack, both antlers at the same time. And I can only imagine the weight and the vulnerability that comes with losing that. So if another male or a bear or something they encountered soon, they wouldn't be able to protect themselves in the same way. So this card has, it says a lot here, you know, why we prefer to remain on or in the tower, because there is a level of protection. Now, we know that new antlers will grow. And we also know that through the forest fire, the earth will be replenished. And the nutrients that come after forest fire are so beneficial for the regeneration of the forest. We also know that it's part of the natural cycle. And so what I feel, there's two things here that this card does for me, is the weight. The feeling of the weight of that crumbling, which is a good thing, right? Because we feel lighter, and maybe we're able to go forth feeling a little bit lighter. But with that comes vulnerability. And it's just the way it has to be. I can't say enough about this particular card. This one was not planned to be on the table, but I had out Rachel Pollack's deck for the Seven of Cups episode I just recorded, and this Tower card is really quite something. I think I'm going to do a Mother Peace Shining Tribe side-by-side deep dive next. I would like to explore this deck, and I know that now it has been reissued following her death. And this is a super powerful card. Lots to think about here. And I see there's a harmonizing energy here. So we have a water cup below the surface of the earth, and then we have the flames, the tower in flames above the earth. So there's this as above, so below relationship. We also have the response, these ladders on three sides connecting. I don't know, like there's a lot going on here. These are meant to be ladders. She describes them as ladders. There's a bunch of stars in the background, and there is a light. This figure is simultaneously emitting lightning and being struck by lightning. And maybe that is, it's a really intense energy, and yet it will eventually bring balance and harmony, and things will be better down the road until we're ready for another one of these. So I'm definitely going to sit with this card, and having a look at it reminds me of how I want to do more with this deck. All right, so Lily White, Llewellyn, Prisma Visions. I know this card, a lot of people like this card. This is the Everyday Witch Tarot, and it's almost as if this witch realizes that the status quo can't stay. And so I'm going to, instead of letting it fall on me, I'm going to obliterate it myself. And watch me. So it's a kind of an empowering tower card. I haven't shared many cards from the Enchanted Tarot. This particular version is a 25th anniversary edition. And I chose it for the beauty of the art. And I think that in this card I could read something into the way that the flames are depicted through the petals of the flowers. And I just had to share it with you. I don't think we've seen a tower card so far today that has the crown falling off, and maybe that's also why I chose it. And maybe this is a great segue to the FINALISTS Tarot. And this also is a link to the Kali card as well, too. Our heads are thick, right? A lot of us are super thick-skulled. Lack trust in our intuition, very myopic in perspective. And so it's only through the crown falling off, it's only through cracking our head open that we can begin to see things more clearly. And I had to laugh. I think it was in Rachel Pollack's book. She talks about monks meditating for years and years and years and years and years, and it's not until their master comes along and whacks them on a head with a bamboo rod that they have their experience of enlightenment. And I think that story also, that's so familiar. Usui Sensei, who is the founder of the lineage of Reiki that I practice, had his enlightenment experience when he went to the top of the mountain desperate for enlightenment, and it was on the journey down where he tripped and fell that had his awakening. And so sometimes we do need to have the crown literally whacked. And I suppose that, that speaks to the car accident, or being taken aback by a partner saying they can't do this anymore. The universe needs to intervene because we're not strong enough on our own to do it. Once it gets whacked, we're fine. We're good. Might not feel like that way, but we can go on. But somebody needs to crack the shell. And I'm thinking about nutcrackers and how hard it is to crack a shell. Sometimes it takes a tremendous force to crack a nut. Perry, hello, welcome, namaste. Tarot cards are definitely the most powerful and effective way to get the attention of huge wake-up calls and changes that are life-changing and teaching the immense amount of power of endings. Masha shared this card, the FINALISTS Tarot, and it's funny, she made a comment on this leap, and I don't think I've ever incorporated the image of a leap into this card. I've just been so focused on this energy moving through this physical body. And so I want to change my story or expand my story of this card. And what if there was this epic, magical force of nature, this place where you could go to, where it was known that transformation would happen. And I think about the northern path of the Camino. I recently reread Shirley MacLaine's Camino, and it said if you walk the Camino, this part of the Camino alone, you are, it's like you're walking for days and days, weeks and weeks through a imprint. And the historical aspect of the imprint will emerge. People have a lot of dreams and powerful moments on this journey. So I imagine that this is my story here, there's this place on the earth where if you go to this place on the earth and you jump across this chasm, you will be transformed. And yet it's either dark or it's really, really hot, or it's really cold, or it's at the top of a mountain. It's really hard to get to. But you take this leap of faith and you make this journey and you jump across this chasm and this energy moves through you and you become enlightened. You are forever changed. Now, of course, that's just a story that I'm making up. But sometimes we do need to take a leap of faith, and it's with that leap of faith that transformation and enlightenment comes. And the thing here that when I think of enlightenment, I think of the energy moving through the Agnya chakra, then the crown chakra. But something here, this person has chosen to release their head back, and the energy is emerging through their throat, through their voice. And I think that is a powerful, something powerful to notice, because sometimes this tower presents itself when people find their voice. And when you finally find your voice, there is a sense of freedom, and yet often all is lost. You will lose friends. You're going to change. You're never, it's like you can't go back. Once you have said what you need to say, everything shifts. The energy shifts. And so this card is really, it's great because, and this is Carmen Sorrenti, the Philarcos Tarot. There's so many ways that I can read this card. I love it. Super powerful. Perry, we all learn from each experience, hardship, obstacle, and other types of obstructions in life, with such a huge amount of information gathered by adversity and learning from each experience. Yeah. It's powerful stuff. All right, so how in the world am I going to choose 5 cards? Oh my goodness. Well, my little elk, that Llewellyn Tower is going to be there for sure. My little elk is going to be there, my big elk. That card has meant a lot to me for a long time. And then I will pick these up and I will select 3 more. Philarcos Tarot. So there we have 3. And note, ooh, they're very similar in color. They really are. Okay. I am going to choose James Eads' card for the expanded interpretation that it gave me. And if you weren't here at the beginning, you can go back and listen to my thoughts on this card. And I'm really sort of taken by the blues and the yellows in all of these cards, because if you read this card from a Golden Dawn perspective, this is the Mars card. And none of these cards have martial colors in them, which is really interesting. Yeah. In this deck, there is a card that looks a lot like this, where a human is being blasted open by energy. Primordial Tarot is a fantastic tarot. Yeah. Okay, so 5th card. I think I will call on the Dark Goddess and leave her here to tell this story. Kali. I tell you, my first journey in West Bengal and going to all those Kali temples changed me forever. And it was quite literally earth-shattering. Yeah. I'll tell you another story about that trip. So this is, I'm confused about the timeline. I was still married. And when you travel to hot countries and you kind of get a little swollen? And I felt like my wedding ring was going to like break off of me. And I think on some days I might have worn it around a mala or a chain. And it was soon after that experience that my husband decided he couldn't be in the marriage any longer. My spiritual awakening, I think, was very hard on him. It's not something that he was prepared for. Anyway, we don't need to talk about that, but when I think back about my wedding ring and how uncomfortable it was during that trip, it's really kind of something. The blue. Oh, so many. Okay, let's highlight all of these. Forged in fire is a great resource for strengthening metal, and the clarity of our relationships are in alignment with the introduction of trial by fire poetically and imagination that is useful. Amelia says that the blue feels like being inside a flame. Yeah. All right, so my top 5 tower cards, left to right, are the Philarkos Tarot, the Llewellyn Tarot, Lily White, Prisma Visions. I just want to make sure I've got the right name here. Yes, that's the Prisma Visions. Sorry, I don't have the large card for this one. And the Dark Goddess Tarot. Thank you for tuning in today, and I look forward to those of you that are watching the replay, your comments later on. Absolutely am thrilled for people when this archetype arises in a reading and I get to walk this journey and guide, support others through big changes like this. Yeah. Be brave, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Namaste. Thank you to Amelia and Perry for your contribution to the chat. Namaste.